If you're
business.
not running your business is running you. I mean, when I left corporate, I practically became an employee for my own LLC, which is legally how it works. But honestly, I mean, why did I leave? I'm working more now than I ever have. Was I really making as much money as I thought I was if I looked at it in terms of hours, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I hit six figures in less than 6 months very quickly. But if I'm working 60, 70 hours a week, how profitable is that, really?
Welcome to How She Built It. I'm Carrie Augustine Boyle, CEO of Automate and Elevate. Around here, success isn't accidental, it's built. There's a lie that a lot of entrepreneurs have been told that if you just worked harder, stayed more consistent, pushed through the resistance, the business will grow. My guest today has built an entire methodology around throwing that story out entirely. She's an ADHD business coach, a TEDx speaker, the founder of Socially Ausome, and the author of a brand new book, Flow First Thinking. Her whole approach is built on one radical idea: your business should keep moving even when your brain checks out. And honestly, that's not just an ADHD strategy, that's just good business. So before we dig into all of that, bring us back to the beginning, girl. I'm so excited to have you here. How did you get here? And what made you realize that this is the work that you were called to do?
Ooh, okay. So I have a habit of saying long story short, and it's not long, but I will keep it as brief as possible. I did digital marketing in corporate for about 5 years. At that time, I was managing digital assets, everything from Yelp, Google My Business, Facebook, Instagram, you name it, for over 180 locations for a very large franchise of one of your favorite pizza brands out there. And I loved it. I loved how quick and fast paced social media was. I loved being able to take care of customers without having to actually be face to face with customers online. That was like, yeah, I got this. And so, all of that being said, I loved the industry. I loved what was I was doing. But in 2018, my son, Caden, my middle child, was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. And if you've heard it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a metropolitan city to raise a special needs child. ABA therapy, OT, speech therapy, all of these different things. And that's not really doable with a 9 to 5. 2022, I left my job and started Socially Awesome, my company. That's why awesome is spelled the way it is. It's a name play on being an autism family. It's not Australian, like I get asked all the time. But I started out by doing done for you services, what I was already doing in corporate, what I knew I was good at. I was great at the work. I was terrible at setting boundaries. And so I very quickly burned out with that. I felt this need to obviously overperform for my clients, work 24/7 for my clients. And a lot of that was a fear that the business would collapse if I did not respond immediately or if I took the weekends off. And so did that for about a year. And during that process, I grew my own brand, my own social media platforms very quickly at a rapid pace. And so I was getting a lot of questions around, how are you growing so fast? What are you doing? And I'll tell you right now, it was a whole lot of TikToks and short form video. And I was burning out on that too very quickly. But I decided to start coaching other solopreneurs on how they could grow online. I've been doing that since then, but recently in January of 2025, I pivoted a little bit to really focus more on neurodivergent entrepreneurs. The reason for that is I was having a lot of my clients who I was already coaching ask, "This is so different. I've never seen anybody do it this way or think this way." And a lot of comments about my thought processes. And so one day I mentioned to a client on a call, she asked me, like, "How do you come up with this stuff?" I was like, "I don't know, maybe it's my ADHD brain." And she said, "I had no idea you were ADHD." And I sat with that for a while. I obviously was always fearful of acknowledging that in public because people think of ADHD, they think of an 8-year-old hyperactive boy. And I don't know, I sat with it. I had a clarity call with a coach, was like, "Look, should I go all in on this? Because people with ADHD are 5 times more likely to be an entrepreneur. So I know their brain operates the way my brain operates a lot of the time. I don't know, it just felt right. So I went all in on pivoting my messaging around obviously serving ADHD entrepreneurs, helping them build systems. If you know anything about ADHD, executive function is real, energy fluctuates. So, automations and systems are the backbone of being successful as any entrepreneur, but especially for ADHD entrepreneurs. And somewhere in all of that, 2 books were published. I started a nonprofit. So now I'm serving adults with ADHD, children with autism, and a lot has happened in between. But that's kind of the gist of it. It just was really me getting very clear on who I am, why I operate the way that I do, why I've had the success that I've had, and then how can I help others do the same.
Oh my gosh, girl, I'm like taking notes as you're talking because there's so many pieces and so many we can unpack this, right? I heard that you were burned out, and then the burnout, I guess, led to in the mix of being burned out, you also kind of identified your mission ultimately, and that is where the ADHD piece came from, and then you realized that all these entrepreneurs are out there literally white knuckling their business to figure it out. I need more. Tell me more. So you identified that you were go, go, go. The business was scaling. You were burning out. Then you have this light bulb moment. You're calling. I'm gonna say it's your calling. Hey, I really feel called to help ADHD entrepreneurs where a lot of people, because I have an education background, right? So ADHD in the world of education, being a teacher is not that it's a bad thing, like quote
Mhm.
unquote bad, but like, if a student has ADHD, it's they need all these things in place and they're not normal, right? So and you're shaking your head as I'm saying this because I'm sure
There's
you
so
felt
many
that way.
misconceptions and all of that too.
Yeah.
And you're right. It is really just the way that even as educators, we're taught or educators are taught to be able to spot those things to help children, obviously. But if you know one person with autism or one person with ADHD, you know one person. That is it. Everyone is different. Even their symptoms are different. So me as a child, because ADHD didn't just develop, right? I've had it forever. It's just at what point was it addressed and diagnosed and started receiving services or therapy or medication, whatever path people go down. And for me, as a child, I was always top 10 in my class, involved in every sport. There was no way there was anything different about me. But I had been burning out my entire life trying to please everyone because so many of the things that my brain wanted to do or the way my brain operated was not typical. Now, I'm 35 years old, so we've learned a lot in the last 35 years around how to serve people with neurodivergency. But yes, burnout was real because I might be told, for example, everyone has energy peaks. Chronotypes are a real thing. Like Harvard's done studies on them. It's not something for me. And people with ADHD, very often, their emotions regulate their energy. So, depending upon what kind of day it is, they can have high highs and low lows. Well, if you have a terrible day, and you got low lows and you still have to show up in your business, that's a struggle. And we already, even neurotypical people or people who aren't neurodivergent, they're going to have low lows in their business. That one client is going to say something and it's going to spiral them. They're going to get a terrible comment on an Instagram reel that just hits a little too deep. Like that's going to happen. But the difference is with people that are neurodivergent, it can often spiral them for much more than a day, a week. I'm just going to step away for a while. And that pattern of, go, 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 and then ghosting, go, 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 and then ghosting, there's no way for you to build something sustainable. And we talk a lot about in online business and social media and all the things, consistency is key. But as someone with ADHD, my energy is not consistent. And so the only way for me to be consistent for my customers and my clients is to have systems in place that can be consistent for me.
You literally just walked yourself into my next question that I wrote down. But before that, some of the things that you just mentioned, you kind of spun it so that ADHD is actually a positive thing, which I I feel like we need more of that. I follow you religiously and I see your content all the time, but I'm so happy that you're talking about it in such a positive light because it isn't a bad thing. Then you mentioned doing really well in school and you even touched on kind of like hiding it, right? Like I feel like a lot of people that potentially have like ADHD, they do everything to like try to hide it, like because you don't want to be labeled and it's like a bad thing and it's like a weakness, right? Like as entrepreneurs, as humans, like right, we don't want to be weak. So you just mentioned that when you have these high highs, the low lows, all of those things, and then we're grinding, we're trying to get ahead, you touched on systems. I heard my favorite word. So, what are some of the systems that maybe you've gotten in place in your life so that things keep running when you have those low lows? My second question would be let's dive in and talk about some of the stuff that you've maybe done with clients, even,
Yeah.
you know?
So for me, I have systems for just about everything, and I'm always looking for if I do something more than 3 times, like, can I automate this? Can I build an SOP for this? And you had said that, a lot of times people hide their neurodivergency, they hide that ADHD, and that's true because there's so many jokes around it, right? Like, "Oh, look, a squirrel," or whatever, and it's not that we're so distracted. It's not that we can't keep a thought longer than a few minutes. It's more or less that we are dopamine seeking and we are passion oriented. And so if I am working on something that is boring and mundane and doing admin work that's like, "Oh my god, I should outsource this to a VA," and then something else catches my attention and it's like, "That looks more fun. I could be better at that." So it's not that we are scattered, we're usually bored. And so that is why I highlight it as such a positive thing because think about it, if you've got 100 people in the room and everyone's exactly the same and comes up with the exact same idea and pulling out the same exact copy paste thing from ChatGPT, there's never innovation. There's never creativity. There's never anything different. And so, very often, people with ADHD are innovative thinkers and they have more creativity and they could tap into that a lot of times if they're allowed to go raw dog and run wild with it. But in corporate America and other things, they're usually not, right? This is how it's always done and this is how you have to do it. And so, for me, looking at systems usually keep me consistent in my business. Like you said, they help me with my energy management. So everything from content management systems, I usually always have, I like to do what I call a content sprint, which is my version of batching. But you and everyone experiences this. No one wants to show up every single day and talk on camera. There are days that you're like, oh my God, I'm bloated, or oh my gosh, I just can't even put a thought together today, or oh my, I've been doing this for 4 years. I'm so tired of making TikToks. Like everyone experiences that. Like I said, the problem is often when you have ADHD, it just spirals into a long period of time. And then it gets to that point where, like the text message you forgot to respond to for 2 weeks, and it's like now it's just awkward. I can't even go back. I can't even show back up anymore because now we're past a point, and there's this extra fear of rejection. So I have a lot of content management systems, not only creating the content, editing the content, but obviously scheduling it. So when there are those days where I'm like, I'm not doing it today. Something is out there. Obviously, lead workflows. So, looking at email automations, text message automations, DM automations. But then I also have systems for my day to day in my home life because as an entrepreneur, there is no such thing as balance. Okay. It doesn't exist. I don't care what people tell you. You can take the weekends off. But if you run your business out of your house, there is going to be some crossover, right? Kids are getting off the bus at 2:30. I'm doing a podcast. They're banging on the door like, we're out of Capri Suns. It's just gonna happen. It's just gonna happen. So you have to have some systems in place for that as well. And that's what my whole Flow First framework is about identifying where you need those systems, how they work with your energy, how to schedule your week properly. Because that was part of the reason I burned out so bad doing done for you services in the beginning. I had no boundaries. And
Uh-huh.
so if someone said, hey, are you available at 1 o'clock for a call today? I'm like, okay, I got to keep this business running. Absolutely. Instead of saying, actually, I do calls on Tuesday, Thursday and between these hours. What's your next availability? Right. So some of those things, and a lot of my systems are for that to help keep boundaries in place. Because if you're not running your business is running you. And that goes for everyone.
Ooh, so much truth to that. It's almost like a mic drop moment. If say it again, if your
If
business
you're not running your business is running you. I mean, when I left corporate, I practically became an employee for my own LLC, which is legally how it works. But honestly, I mean, why did I leave? I'm working more now than I ever have. Was I really making as much money as I thought I was if I looked at it in terms of hours, right?
Mhm,
I mean, I hit six figures in less than 6 months very quickly. But if I'm working 60, 70 hours a week, how profitable is that really?
mhm. Yeah, if you do the math
And
on
to
it.
me, it was very profitable at the time because I didn't value myself very high either. So I'm like, well, I only made 20 bucks an hour in corporate, so it all works out. But that's not the case. That's not the goal. And so a lot of these systems are setting you up for growth, but also for balance and as much balance as you can get.
I feel like some of this I needed this conversation today. Some of this feels like a called out moment. When I say that, I mean, we're in the thick of it. We're in the grind. We're doing all the things. But sometimes I think we need to take our foot off the gas and step back to get some of the things that you're mentioning in place, to create those boundaries, to set better systems, to reevaluate what lights us up, you know?
Correct.
If it's something foundational versus having that moment of I'm bored and, I'm taking my attention away from something that needs to be done, right?
Right.
It
And I like to think of it because I very often still struggle. Like nothing is perfect, right? We all still have these days where it's like, am I doing the right thing? Am I going in the right direction? You start questioning things. I think it always happens, especially when you are a solopreneur and you work from home and it's just you. Like there's nobody to even bounce ideas off of. That's why community and mentorship and all those things are so important. But when I have those moments of, well, I don't want to set that boundary. I don't want to draw that line. I might scare this client off. I like to try to use almost examples or metaphors that makes me feel more confident, right? So, for example, I call my OBGYN to schedule my annual. Her next available appointment is a month away, a month out, you know? So if I got to tell somebody, hey, I can't do today, I could do tomorrow at this time or next week at this time, that's business, right? That's business.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it won't go the way you think it's going to go. It won't spiral the way you think it's going to spiral if you have the confidence to set that boundary. But when you're scrambling and you're like, well, I could try to squeeze it in. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you start kind of caving in a little bit, giving in to that boundary, letting that
Mhm.
boundary down, of course, they're like, "Yeah." And every person is wired selfishly in some way, right? We do things because of something we want or some goal we have. And if you let other people's, goals run your goals and run your business, it's you're just an employee.
It's so true. As you're talking, I've been working online, what are we, like, 10 years now? And you're bringing me back to those moments where I remember having to get back to people so quickly when
Yep.
they send you a message because you exactly what you called out, right? You feel like if you don't answer fast enough, they're going to go order from someone else. If you don't get back to them soon enough, they're going to go do business with someone else. And I feel like that's the struggle for a lot of people that potentially might listen to this episode where it's you feel like you have to do it all. And, you mentioned systems, and there's so many different systems you can do. You don't have to be the one doing it all, right? You can have a DM automation or, a link in bio or whatever it is where if you're sleeping, if you're with family, if you're doing something, the person can still get the information that they're trying
Yeah,
to get, right? You
right.
don't have to be the one
Yeah,
doing it.
and the beautiful thing about this and one thing that I'm currently working on in my business, going back through all my workflows and just editing my messaging a little bit around this because I talk about it a lot in my content, but we also know, social media is so full of ads right now. Who knows even who sees your content? But, when you're setting up like DM automations, someone drops a word on Instagram and you're gonna send them, a lead magnet or whatever it might be. In that automation, just be transparent and be like, hey, here's the thing you asked for. If you have any questions, let me know. I don't check messages on the weekends, but I'll be back to you on Monday. Be transparent, let them know. Like my OBGYN isn't open on Saturday and Sunday. If I want a specialist, my husband's trying to book a specialist right now, doctor, and it's months out. So don't yes, we live in a society where people want things right now. But if your back end, your website, your link about all that is prepared, they can find it if they really want to. And if they didn't want to, they're not your client anyway. Because if not, they're probably going to want a refund. They're going to be a problem. And so some of that was what I had to learn in the beginning as well is that I don't want everybody as a customer. I don't want everybody as a client. If you can't figure out how to check your spam and promotion folders on your email, please don't buy from me. Please don't buy
Mhm.
because you messaging me at Friday, 4 o'clock, saying, hey, still can't find the link to that course and it's been sent 3 times, but it's in the promotions folder and you just can't figure out how to check that. Like, you're probably not my ideal client.
You
I
got
mean, I'm
that
being
right.
really honest right now. Like, please don't call me and ringing through about how you haven't got that email. Or even
Mhm.
worse, you've opened it and it shows me you opened it and you're like, still didn't get that email. I want a refund. Nope, just don't buy from me. Please don't.
Yeah. Yes,
Save
yes.
me. Save me the trouble. Save me the trouble. So, like, those are some of the things that I am starting to put in my messaging. Like I said, I talk about it a lot in my content. Like, yo, I'm usually not on social media on the weekends. I got a kid that plays travel softball. I run a nonprofit. A lot of our stuff happens on the weekends. Friday's a personal day for me. So if you message me on the Thursday, you very well might not hear back from me until Monday or Tuesday, depending on how many messages I got. That's my business. But everything is available, and if you really wanted it, you could find it.
Mhm.
So
Smart.
that is something I had to get comfortable with. I had to be comfortable with, and it's still uncomfortable sometimes. And I still find myself apologizing in messages. I had to apologize to you, which that was a whole thing. Apple needs to fix the whole message request folder thing because I found one in there yesterday from one of my kids' therapists from a month ago. Apparently, when I updated, I now have 3 folders for text messages, and I had all these red bubbles, I couldn't find them. I'm like, "Where they go? Where's the bubbles? Like,
Yeah.
why do I see bubbles?" Found you in there. It's just technology. Anyway, I'm getting on tangent here, but what I'm getting at is I had to get comfortable with that. And I still often find myself apologizing. Now, if I missed it and it's 2 weeks later, absolutely, I'm gonna apologize. But if you message me at Thursday, like I said, at 5, and I don't get back to you at till Monday, I'm not gonna apologize. I might say I'm not usually a messenger on the weekends, but DM automations can get you everything that you want. If we're having a one, a personal conversation, that's different. That's gonna be me, obviously.
Yeah,
And you just have to wait.
exactly.
You have to wait till my door opens back up.
100%. And I just want to restate something that Elise just said before she talked a little more. Being transparent, I love that you mentioned that because I think a lot of people don't realize you can how much of the weight you can lift with these messages, with these DM automations. And you touched on being transparent and having that message, letting people know when you're online, how often you're online, where your presence is, maybe even like you just touched on where they can find resources or get their questions answered. That's again a piece of having a system, right?
It's as simple as setting up an away message on your email as well, from Friday to Monday, and just saying, "Thank you so much. We got your email." You all get these emails from every other company out there. Why are you not setting one up?
For
"Hey,
yourself.
thank you. We've gotten your message. We do have a 24 to 48-hour business response. This is our business hours. If you're looking for this, here's a link. If you're looking for this, here's a link. If you're looking for this, here's a link. If not, you'll hear back from us later."
Hmm.
That has never lost me a client that I know of. If they went and bought from someone else, cool. But that's never gotten me any kind of negative response of like, "I can't believe you're closed on Saturday. How dare you go to your kid's softball game?" Like, no one has ever done that to me.
Exactly.
And if
Yeah,
they
100.
did, again, that's where you have to be real with yourself and be like, "I don't wanna work with them anyway."
Hmm. Yeah.
Have had negative DMs before where someone messaged me on a Friday. It was a one-off message, it wasn't a DM trigger, and I didn't get back to them, obviously, and so on Sunday, they were like, "I guess you don't want my business." I came back in on Monday and was like, "Really hope that you found what you were looking for. Doesn't sound like we're a good fit." How
Bless
dare you
and
be mad at
release.
me for taking the weekends with my kids, and so these are important for all entrepreneurs, but especially, like I said, neurodivergent entrepreneurs, because it is proven our brains have a higher sense of a fear of rejection and,
Hmm.
that sensitivity to it. And that's often why we are people pleasers and we do burn out a lot faster. And it's very easy to spiral when something like that happens.
Hmm. Hmm.
So having just some of those things set in place can really change your business from the very beginning.
Guilty of being a people pleaser. I feel like a lot of what you're saying is calling me out, just saying.
Well,
All
I'm
right,
calling
so
myself out. I'm calling myself out, right? None of this was taught to me. This was
mhm,
a learned experience, and I'm still learning it every single day. Again, I'm always looking for an opportunity to set up better automations that are transparent like that. I mean, it's simple things where if I get the same question multiple times, I look to see how I can automate it.
mhm. Yeah, smart. So on that note,
Mhm.
let's talk the flow first framework. Let's
Yeah,
talk how that evolved, how that came to fruition, and explain a little bit, to anyone listening,
of
how that might
course.
help them and how they can get
Yeah.
access to that.
Yeah, so, it's based on my TEDx, and so when I applied to do a TEDx, I obviously, you meet with a coach for 6 months leading up to the TEDx, you meet with them regularly because TEDx doesn't want you to get there. A lot of times it's not in your backyard, right? So I went to Missouri to do it, and they don't want you to get there and not know what you're talking about. They wanna make sure you're credible, you've got the data. There's certain things TED looks for, obviously, like facts. They want everything to be based on facts. It's not an inspirational type, opinionated thing. And so, with all of that being said, I was meeting with my TED coach and I had my framework, but I didn't have an acronym for it yet. I was like, this is how I operate on a daily basis. And so when working with her, she said, you really need to find a way to teach this to people step by step. And so I was like, well, I call it my flow. And she's like, that's amazing. Flow is not actually something I created. The state of flow was created by a German guy. You can look it up. I can't pronounce his name. I wish I could. It's think about like where athletes are like in the zone, right? It's that state where time disappears, distractions fade, you are in it, you are working, you are hyper focused, you're vegging out, whatever you call it, right? And so flow actually is an acronym. It stands for Find Your Spark Times. Again, everyone has natural energy peaks. Harvard's done business reviews on this. You're either a morning person or a night owl, but it goes even deeper than that. Very often, like I have a burst of energy between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. And then I get kind of like in a lull for a while, and then I get another burst of energy. I know you've gotten text messages from me probably like 11 p.m. midnight. I know when we stayed in a hotel together, you were like, "Oh my god, your brain is still working," so I get that second wave, and
Mhm.
so I have different spark times. Well, if you
Mhm.
know when your spark times are, you plan your higher value work during those times. You shouldn't be creating content when your brain is in a lull, right? You shouldn't have something that creates that's when you unsubscribe from emails and you do all the admin stuff. So if you can identify your spark times, you can produce better work faster with a lot less distractions because your brain is on. L stands for link boring with stimulating. And a lot of people already do this, but they don't realize they do this. So it's called temporal building, and it helps you finish a task that might be boring to you or mundane that you're like, oh my God, I don't want to do this. Think about like you're folding laundry and you're watching Netflix, right? You don't just sit there
Mhm.
and fold the laundry, that's boring. But if you're watching a show that you're like, the basket's folded in a second, or listening to a podcast while you're driving or whatever that is, it's something that's stimulating, getting you through something that's boring. There's a lot of different ways to do this. I go into them a lot in the book. But for ADHD entrepreneurs, this is very, very important because we often, again, get bored and that's when we get scattered or distracted. However, the boring things have to be done. That's just how it
Mhm.
works, right? I have to do the laundry, unfortunately. O is organize your overflow, and you're gonna laugh because you've seen this from me 1,000%, like personally seen this from me. We have this abundance of overflow. It's that innovation, that's creativity. We got more ideas than we know what to do with, more ideas than time we have to execute them, and they just come out of nowhere very often. And so this is where we find ourselves. We have sticky notes and planners and notes in our phone, our computer. We've started Trello boards. They're half finished. We don't have, they're not even complete. We got Google Docs that are named untitled because we didn't even take the time to title them. We got, so all these things we've started to try to organize. And we have this thought process, all entrepreneurs do, of if we could just get our shit together, if we could just get organized, we would do so much better. And the truth is, we've got all of our ideas in too many places. And this is the hardest thing because when you're developing systems as anyone, especially as someone with ADHD, being able to develop one you're going to stick to takes time. And so this is where I really talk about finding what is the easiest route, what is the least restrictive system you can create to organize your overflow. And then I walk through in the book of how to prioritize that. Because often we look at, okay, we've got all these ideas. Which one comes first? Which one's most important? Which one's just a distraction? And how you systematize and organize that so that you can execute, you can get things done. And you don't avoid invoicing clients that owe you money so that you can go start a faceless YouTube channel because someone on TikTok said you can make $10,000 a month doing it. Like you get distracted by this thing because it looks shiny. And then W, work your week around your peaks. So all of these combined help you make the ideal schedule for that energy management like we talked about. So when I first started my business, again, I would take calls any time of day, all day long. I'd let clients just ramble on the phone for an hour and a half. I didn't manage well. And so when I know when my peak energy hours are, I schedule my high value tasks during that. I know when my lull hours are, my declined hours, schedule my admin during that, and I use L to link the boring with the stimulating to finish those tasks I don't want to do. And then organize your overflow helps you plan projects and prioritize so that your week isn't, we often take on way more than we can actually handle because we have time blindness, another scientific, real neurological thing. And you're not committing, overcommitting, under delivering, and that you have enough energy to actually rest to avoid burnout.
You condensed this all into a book?
Yeah. Yeah.
Alright, I need this
This is
book.
the paperback, I got hardbacks too, but, yeah, and my goal, because it's funny, and the audiobook's in process right now, Audible's really picky on, like, the pitch and things like that, so I don't know that I'm gonna be the one to be able to narrate it, to be honest, but I'm gonna try. But my goal with this, because it's funny, I wrote a book for people who don't finish books, right? I mean, I can't tell you how many of these books I've actually read. I like audiobooks, but I set it up more like a workbook. So it's very much like pause, execute, and then it's full of resources because I wanted it to be the first book people actually finished, ADHD people actually finished.
Smart. Well, we are definitely linking that below this video. I'm definitely going to get one because as you were talking, I mean, you were Again, speaking directly to me, which I don't feel like I've ever said, "Hey, I feel like I have ADHD," but I mean, all of these ADHD tendencies, I think you've touched on this as we were talking. Entrepreneurs have a lot of similarities with a diagnosed ADHD person. Let's be honest, right? Yeah. So, okay. My last question. What do you think entrepreneurs, whether they're ADHD or not, avoid that's actually costing them, we could either say growth or success? What do you think that they're avoiding doing that's essentially holding them back?
Honestly, dark psychology, and I'll explain on that. So, we very often in our content 'cause I wanna lean towards sales, but the truth is, if you're posting your link and you're like, "On sale today, $37, get it now," like the old school advertising infomercial type thing, it's getting lost. That used to work. That worked great in 2020 and even before then. It doesn't work anymore. And so, very often, that is the marketing that people remember. That's the marketing they know. And so they're not leaning into what I would call dark psychology, which is having some sort of villain in your content or pointing out what's not, why your way is better than others. And so that really comes down to clarity in your business. A lot of people aren't doing the growing as an entrepreneur is so much internal work that it's almost scary. And I think that's what people don't want to do. So they can't tap into the dark psychology. But what I mean dark is if I do things this way, pointing out my content, pointing out my business, like old productivity hacks don't work. Eat the frog is not going to work. I got too many frogs. I can't even handle all the frogs. This is what works better, right? So a lot of people don't want to do that kind of call out content, that darker psychology content, because they haven't done enough clarity to know why they're better. They haven't done enough clarity to build the confidence and the conviction to say, that's bullshit. You need to listen to what I'm saying. So almost that authority that comes with dark psychology, and I say dark psychology because I just talked about this yesterday, so it's definitely top of mind, but bolder, being more authoritative, and that gets you noticed, right? If you're saying the same thing everyone else is saying, sure, you can get some views, you can get some leads, you're not gonna make the sales. If you want the sales you wanna make, you need to show up and say, "I'm the freaking best." If you haven't hired me already, you're crazy and you're gonna miss out because 'cause I'm about to max out on clients, and I'm not even gonna pay you any attention when you come to me 6 months from now. That is the persona I am taking on right now, and I have been building that persona, I guess you would say, for years because we've been taught as people, like, be humble and be graceful and don't be too masculine. I am a woman through and through. I'm all about girl power, but I'm not dainty and I'm not graceful. And so for
Mhm.
me to not be 100% me online, it felt gross, and I did it for way too long. I wasn't authoritative, I wasn't authentic. But behind the scenes, I'm like, "I freaking know I'm good. Like, I am good. You're hard pressed to find somebody better than me." Like, that's the mentality that I have inside, but showing up and saying that, that took years, and that's scary. And I think just the tapping into your dark psychology of why you're the freaking best and who the villains are around you, and saying that, that's
Mhm.
hard. That's hard. And it really just comes down to confidence and conviction always.
Dang. If that is not a truth bomb that a lot of us needed to hear, essentially to be memorable, right? Instead
Yeah.
of staying in the crowd and, you know, conforming, I'll call it conforming. I'm going to stay in line. I'm not going to ruffle any feathers. And what I was thinking of when you were saying this is those entrepreneurs that are scared of a bad comment, right? Somebody coming at you in the comments, but at the end of the day, that becomes a catalyst for a ton of conversations. That becomes a catalyst for somebody choosing to work with you because they know that you're standing up, that you're passionate, that you have, core values, whatever it may be, right?
Negative comments actually will do more for your business depending upon how you respond to them than any piece of content will. Because I had a LinkedIn post last week, I think it was, and I am just tapping into LinkedIn. Like, I've had a LinkedIn profile forever, but I'm just like, my client's not over there, whatever. Well, now that I'm doing more keynote speaking, my clients are there. The people booking conferences are there. So I'm like, I'm learning LinkedIn. I had the most I would call it viral. The best performing LinkedIn post I've ever had, hundreds of comments, and someone coming in there and her credentials say she's a psychiatrist and all the things. So she knows brain science and basically saying that as a business strategist, you did really well in this post because you're getting all these comments. But the truth is you don't really care. And I was like, I took that one personally. Okay. And I had to sleep on it. I read it and I walked away from it. I set a reminder on my calendar to, like, go back and respond. But the way you respond to those types of comments will get you more clients and do more for your growth in your business than anything. And so the reason for that is it gives you the opportunity to, again, show how you would address that situation. Going in and just attacking them, like, I could be like keyboard warrior with a bunch of emojis. That's what I wanted to do, but that's not the case. And so you're right. People are very afraid to put themselves out there, be vulnerable, be known because of the negativity that might come around it. But the way I handle that comment and addressing the situation will do more for my business. And you would be surprised. I talked about this as well on Facebook a couple weeks ago about a Threads comment, okay, on Threads, which is like a short, super short, like one-liner post, right? Someone else made. The comment I made on their Threads got thousands of views and hundreds of comments on my comment. So it's not always about the content you create, it is about the person you are and how you show up in the comment section. People are watching that.
100%. I thank you so much for sharing that because I think that's a truth moment that a lot of people need to hear, to authentically be yourself and to not be afraid to get out there and stand up for what you're passionate about, right? And not let social media put you in this box and think that you have to like conform and yeah. Okay. So on that note, because you just touched on LinkedIn, you just touched on Facebook, for anyone listening, where are they finding you? What type of content are they
Yeah.
getting from Alyece on different platforms potentially or where are you showing up? Give us the tea.
I mean, you can pretty much find me on any platform, Socially Ausome. I'm sure Carrie will link all that in the comments for you. Or you can find me, my Facebook personal profile, which is where I do most of my Facebook stuff, is Alyece Smith. The ADHD CEO podcast, if you're an ADHDer, I do have a podcast as well. And I talk a lot more specific ADHD things on there, tips, just not only for business, but life in general. And,
Books on Amazon, right? We'll link that too.
yeah, you can find it on Amazon, and we'll get that link. It comes in hardcover or paperback. The audiobook is on its way. Goals mid-April-ish. It takes a lot of editing for those, but, there's a ton of resources with it, and I'm just really excited that it's finally out there. You can Google me and find whatever you want. My TEDx is out there, you can find it. We'll link that too, I'm sure, but I'm just super happy to connect with anyone if this resonated with you at all. That no diagnosis required. The world's moving faster, and, I guess I'll put that little disclaimer in there too at the end of the episode here. I'm not a medical provider. Everything I've ever learned is from learned experience. I have no medical credentials, but I'll tell you this, I've had ADHD for 35 years, and I've been getting clearer and clearer and clearer on it over the last several years with experts and psychologists and psychiatrists and all the people, and you could be super successful as an entrepreneur if you tap into this stuff early.
Well, thank you, girl, for coming and hanging out. I am hoping that this episode touches a lot of lives. It definitely made an impact listening to everything that you just shared, especially the flow as you were breaking it down. And I was just thinking of myself driving in the car listening to podcasts or the things that I don't want to do in my own house. Maybe I need to like throw the laundry basket in front of the TV or something like that. I wish I could have a
You
TV in
don't?
my.
You
No.
don't? You actually fold laundry without doing anything else?
Yes, but here's the struggle part for Carrie. I need entertainment to put the clothes from the laundry basket to my
Oh,
closet. I get in trouble from my husband that the clothes just sit on the bench in the bedroom and we have 4 loads of laundry on the bench and yeah. I
same.
need to find an activity that keeps me busy to like, get that part moving.
I go from the Netflix in the living room where I fold the clothes to the Netflix in the room where I put the clothes up.
That's
Or
a good idea.
podcast. But yeah, like, even the smallest things, right? Like boiling
Mhm.
water. I'm like, "Oh my god, this is so boring." Like, "Come on, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up,
During
hurry
the pasta. Yeah, for
up."
sure.
Okay, what can I do? Can I clean the coffee maker? Can and so, yeah, we'll talk
I love
offline.
it. We will talk offline. All right, girl. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Bye.
What I hope you heard today is this: consistency was never the goal, sustainability is. The entrepreneurs who last aren't the ones who pushed hardest, they're the ones who built smartest. If you've been grinding your way through your business and wondering why it's not holding, it's not you, it's the design. Go grab Elise's book, Flow First Thinking, and connect with her at Socially Awesome. We'll link everything in the show notes. And if you're serious about building something that actually runs, make sure you're following the show. New episodes drop every Thursday.